In this episode, I really want to help you, if you have a friend, if you have a family member, if you have a partner that's going through some stage of loss, and it could be a loss of any kind, big, small, or maybe just a difficult season that you're passing through within yourself, having to reckon things within yourself, how to cope with the duality of the breadth and depth of sometimes paradoxical emotions, and how to really normalize our emotional health. Because 20 years ago, I did not have the language. I was basically just trying to survive. It's not like we're really given a playbook on how to respond or even just have normal conversations when somebody's talking about hard things, let alone I didn't even have the proper languaging or even the words to articulate what I was really going through and experiencing at that time. So this is for anybody that is passing through a dark season, or anyone who has a friend, a family member, a mom, a dad, a sister, a brother, a partner, a girlfriend that's going through a tough time, or maybe it's just you that maybe you feel guilty and you feel shameful for probably going through a loss or going through a breakup, and all you want to do is sulk, or you feel bad for not wanting to sulk all the time. And this was actually the one thing that I definitely struggled with, because for so many of those years, my life was plagued with grief and tragedy and tragedy. I mean, these were like the craziest circumstances all within that span of 5 years. And I joke about it and laugh about it now because, it's life, right? We can't take ourselves so seriously. And it's the benchmark of building resilience, is to be able to poke fun and normalize like the shitty hard times, but the joy in chaos. And that is what I want you to land from this episode, is that, yeah, there can be really tough times, but there also can be magic in the unbearable and the messy human moments. And it is joy that got me out of that place of just absolute anguish and pain and fear that I was going to continue losing people. I mean, literally my abandonment issues and attachment style was totally, and I would probably even go, one step further and deeper to say this, is that fear of abandonment kept coming up, which is why I chose the partners that I chose. I stayed in relationships way longer than I should have. And I tried to, of course, the proverbial, like, let's fix everybody under the sun. That also was, coaxed in on top of that. So I did have a lot of those codependent issues. And this episode is not about your attachment style. So what I really want to get to is, how can you, if you are going through that dark space, allow yourself to grieve, allow yourself to set up time to actually move through those emotions. And now we have so many tools. And my really good friend, Regina, Mama Gina, she's also a business partner, she has some incredible tools that we talked about on her episode. There's like 90 seconds that she has you go through. Picking a song that's all about, rage and the rage of your emotions and really the anger, and, but you're using it in a bodily practice. So you're using like these crazy moves, but you're also picking a song that's kind of like, is it like Rage Against the Machine or something like that, but something like hard and heavy, or maybe it's like old school rap, but something that's going to get those emotions going. And ever since Regina's come to my life, literally, my son and I have been swamping, and it's swamping the emotions. So we'll get like, pillows, and we'll start dancing and crazy, like jumping up and down on our trampoline at home. But that's one way to normalize our rage. And then we change up the song a minute and a half later, And it doesn't have to be perfect. I mean, whatever feels good. But then you turn on a different song, and maybe that's something that is more grief-like. So you can process that grief, the sadness, again, through a crazy, nuanced, whatever, movement, dance practice. And then you switch the playlist to a turn-on jam, which of course is my favorite at this stage of life right now, because we want to end in a place of joy. We want to get to that joyful frequency. And how beautiful in that whole experience, and you guys can do it too. And I've loved this ever since I've got introduced to this, but I've done it in different ways back in the day, right? Before it was just, I would not listen to sad, sappy love songs. There's no way, no how. But sometimes I kind of wanted to just listen to, the old school R&B songs that, like, the end of the road, Boyz II Men, shout out to Boyz II Men. But it would make me sob for like hours and hours and hours. And that was a good grief practice for me looking back. But now we actually have, and we can use this tool of swamping to really normalize our emotions. And it could really go 360, all in a span of like 5 minutes. And yeah, was it tough back then? Oh my God, you bet. There were days where I didn't even know what it meant and what joy actually meant until, honestly, recently, where I remember vividly, we were going to pick up my son, Ajit and I. We had just moved, to Austin, and it was obviously super chaotic because we had contractors in our home. We were also remodeling our home. I was very pregnant. There was just all of these things going on. We were starting a new business venture as well. And I just looked at him and I'm like, babe, this is the first time in many, 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 many years where I'm not having this like heart drop moment of like anxiety or fear that I'm going to get this like crazy phone call in the middle of the night. Because that was my low lows. My low lows were that low that for so many years, my nervous system was primed that any phone call was like going to trigger this emotional response. Whereas the shittiest things that I was dealing with at the moment were really big human life things. But I had said to him, like, I don't think I've ever had and experienced this much joy. And I knew how to articulate joy versus being in that cloud of darkness and pain and sadness and this like glum and this gloomy air. So if this is you right now, where you've had a hard couple of years, you've had a hard year, you've had a hard couple of months, maybe you're just like in that pocket, in that window. Embrace the subtleties in the days that you do have, because even though I didn't really understand what that feeling was, I was able to still have moments in my day of magic. I still remember, having a crush on a guy, probably in between one of my relationships in high school and in college. And those feelings of butterflies again, those feelings of being desired by somebody else, it trumped my feelings of loneliness and sadness and the grief that would be overwhelming at times. So there is that duality of the joy and the sadness, the messy and the magical. And even going out with my friends to the mall, because shout out to malls back then were such a thing. And then you would go and, sneak into the movies and it was R-rated or whatever. I was probably 16 years old. But those were the fun moments, even though when I went back home, boy, was it tough many, many days. And if you are going through that season, you deserve to experience all of the phases of our emotions. See you next time at the Brave Table.